Hi, good afternoon. Today I would like to talk about Dhyan Chand, the hockey wizard Dhyan Chand, because today is his birthday and it is also celebrated as the National Sports Day, and therefore happy National Sports Day to all of you. And today I would like to talk about an incident or a story about how Dhyan Chand, the hockey captain as well as a hockey legend in India, was able to take India to a gold medal in the Berlin Olympics 1936. So now let me just give you a background of Indian hockey. So Indian hockey had started participating in the Olympics from 1928. In the 1928, Indian hockey participated in the Netherlands Olympics. There they had won a gold. In 1932, they participated in the Los Angeles Olympics, and there also they had won a gold. And now, leading up to the Berlin Olympics in 1936, it was the hockey legend Dhyan Chand. By that time, he had already become world renowned. The hockey legend Dhyan Chand was captaining India for the first time in Olympics. So, leading up to the Olympics in the Berlin Olympics 1936, the situation was like this. In 1932, when India participated in the Los Angeles Olympics, it was said that there were newspaper reports which said that there were not many strong European nations that took part in that Olympics, and it has got to do with the economic crisis at that time, which started in 1929, the Great Depression. So therefore, it is said that India did not have strong opponents, and hence, therefore, they won the gold in 1932 in Los Angeles. On the top of that, just before the Berlin Olympics in 1936, India also played a practice match against a local team in Delhi called Delhi 11, and British India, actually it is British India. So British India lost against that local Delhi team, the Delhi 11, 1-4. So people were questioning, there were newspaper reports that questioned the invincibility of British Indian hockey team. Uh, so, against this backdrop, let me just go ahead and talk about Berlin Olympics. So even Dhyan Chand, for example, even Dhyan Chand, by seeing these little, not exactly grim state, but a little concerning state of affairs of Indian hockey just before the Berlin Olympics, Dhyan Chand, the captain himself, had doubts about the team. He, in his autobiography, had told that uh, what if India loses in his captaincy? He was captaining India in Olympics for the first time. What if India loses the title this time? They had won the last two times, consecutive times, and he had his own doubts. Not only the newspaper reports, and not only among people in general after that loss against the local team, the Delhi 11, at a ground in Morigate, it's called. And after that loss, not only people, he himself had some doubts. So, nevertheless, India had boarded a ship to Berlin, and the first 5 days of the journey was really difficult for in terms of the travel in the ship. It was difficult because the seas were rough. The team members were used to practicing on the deck of the ship, but during the first 5 days they could not do so because the seas were rough. But at a certain point, after a certain after traveling for a certain days, the ship had reached a gulf. A gulf is a portion of a sea that enters towards a landmass, and the ship had reached a region in a gulf at that time, and the gulf was called the Gulf of Aden. So Gulf of Aden was uh, a, a projection or a part of a sea that was going towards the landmass in the Indian Ocean. So there was a piece of land, and there was a region where the members of the ship had got down. The ship had was halted there for 4 hours at the Gulf of Aden, and the Gulf of Aden, to be exact, the location of Gulf of Aden is in between the Arabian Peninsula and the African peninsula and the African coast. So it was between two coasts. So the members of the Indian team got an opportunity to get down, and there they had found a field, a brick-layered field of sand, and it was already in use by a certain group of people who were also Indians. These this group was a Sikh regiment, which was posted at Gulf of Aden region. And as soon as the Sikh regiment got to know that the Indian team were at that region, they had also got to know that Dhyan Chand was captaining India, and he himself was there at the region, and therefore they thought of him as as one of their own, and welcomed him. And they also made way for the Indian team to practice in that field, in the brick-layered sandy field. The Sikh regiment witnessed the practice, and the Indian team got an opportunity to chalk in some practice before the warm-ups to the Olympics started. So after this practice session, India headed towards Berlin, and it was the time for the opening ceremony of the Olympics. And it was a grand affair, the opening ceremony. There was a huge crowd in the stadium, in the Berlin stadium. At the top of the stadium, there was an airship that was circling the stadium, which was in use at that time. And this was a kind of airship which had a bag that is filled with a gas which is lighter than air, so that the airship stays afloat in the air. There would be engines and there would be steering systems to guide the airship, but essentially it would work with the help of a gas lighter than air, for example hydrogen. So the name of that airship was it was a German airship, and the name of the airship was Hindenburg, and it was encircling the space above the crowd, above the stadium. And people were greatly anticipating the arrival of Adolf Hitler, and they were quite enthusiastic as well. There was the Indian contingent which was taking part in the Olympics, and most of the athletes in the Indian contingent were inexperienced at that time. The only bright spot in that regiment was the hockey team. The hockey team had won gold medals in the last two Olympics, and therefore rightly the flag bearer of the entire Indian contingent was the captain of the hockey team, Dhyan Chand. So after the completion of the opening ceremony, there was a time when the warm-ups for the league stages of the hockey matches of the Olympics would begin. And in the first warm-up, India would be facing the Germans, the hosts. And in this warm-up, India lost against the Germans 1-4. Once again, questions were raised about the formidability of the defending champions. But nevertheless, there were some changes that were made in the squad of the Indian team, and the group stages or the league matches had started, and India was slowly beginning to find its touch, beginning to find its past glory, discover its past glory. And the first match was against Hungary, and India had won 4-0. But despite this, there were reports that said that questioned the form of one of the greatest center forwards to have played hockey, Dhyan Chand. So there were some newspaper reports that questioned his form. But it would not take much long before such questions would be put to rest. And the next match was with USA. India defeated USA 7-0, and then also defeated Japan 9-0. And now slowly the reports and the atmosphere was turning towards India. And there was a newspaper report, and the correspondent wrote about India, saying that the Indian players were people while they played. It looked like they were gliding on turf, just like skaters would skate on a skating rink. And and they also flickered the the hockey sticks with great agility. The Ja- the Japanese themselves were themselves very agile, and by observing the agility of the Indians, they themselves were mesmerized after this match when India won against Japanese 9-0. And the next match was the semi-final against the French. Once again, India clobbered the French 12-0 this time. Now the all-important day of the Olympics, the final between India and Germany was to happen. Remember that India had lost the warm-up against the Germans, and now it was time to make up for that. The German newspapers had made the Germans favorite for the match, and in the first half it was India who were 1-0 up against the Germans. And the Germans had tightly marked Dhyan Chand and they were not letting him get away. There was also an incident where a tackle against Dhyan Chand uh, led him to lose one of his teeth. But in the second half, India had once again completely outplayed the Germans, and this time they had scored 7 goals, and the score line ended up by the end of the match as 8-1. And India had won the gold in that Olympics as well. And there was a newspaper report that said that the forwards were Indian forwards. Indian forwards were quite skillful, and they were quite nicely assisted by the three halves, the hardworking workhorses, the three halves. Also, the Indian hockey members or the people had penetrated the defenses of the Germans quite effectively, with great agility and with great accuracy and great stick work. This was according to a report that was put out by an English newspaper called Statesman. So after this win, during this win, Dhyan Chand himself scored 6 goals out of that 8 goals that India had scored. And Dhyan Chand, along with India, had become world renowned in hockey at that time. In the Austrian capital, Vienna, there was a statue that was erected of Dhyan Chand even before it was done in Delhi in 1952. Now it is called Dhyan Chand National Stadium. Dhyan Chand was also honored in many ways by the Indian government. In 1956, he had received the third highest civilian award, the Padma Bhushan. At that time, Bharat Ratna sports category did not come under Bharat Ratna, and hence it could not be possibly given at that time. It was only in 2013 that sports um, got included in Bharat Ratna, the category of sports. Not only that, after receiving Padma Bhushan, there was also a postage stamp that was issued after Dhyan Chand by the Indian government. So he was renowned in India as well as the world over, and according to some reports, I'm not so sure about that, it was said that a few other organizations had also broken some of the hockey sticks of Dhyan Chand to check if there were any magnets, but unsuccessfully. So this was one incident in the life of the hockey legend and wizard Dhyan Chand. And now, from 1929 to 1980, India had won a lot of gold medals. A total of 13 medals have been won so far until 2024. But there was no gold medal that was won after the 1980 Olympics in Moscow. India had won bronze medals in the last Olympics in Tokyo in 2020, as well as now in Paris. And slowly they are rediscovering their lost touch. India had won 8 gold medals in total in the past between 1928 and 1980. And now India is slowly rediscovering its past glory by winning their bronze medals initially, and hopefully they do start winning gold medals once again. Thank you.